Hey everyone, welcome to another video. FC25 is back, bigger, better than ever, but also I'm going to be showing you how to develop your youth through the academy, through scouting, and telling you my tricks and tips for you to be able to get them superstars into your squad. Depending on what ability you have, if you're the top of the tree or the bottom of the pecking order, it doesn't matter. I can give you the best examples and my best knowledge from the game that I have played so far for you to get the best youth players in your squad. So let's get to it. So when setting up a game mode, especially in career mode, I would like everyone to try and look at the training options and look down the bottom where it says development senior player rate and development youth player rate. These are extremely important for how you are going to develop your youth players in and out of the youth system. So for me, I always have mine on fast. If I'm on a lower team, i.e. like Wrexham, something like that, I will always put mine on fast. If I am Man City, I'll put mine fast normal. The reasons for that is I would like my team that I'm playing with to stay normal progression, not have that 25% bonus, okay? Where in the youth team, I would like them to have a 25% bonus because I'm not going to be playing them as often. And when they do come over, I want them to have the highest potential possible or the highest overall possible to go straight into that team or potentially be easily sold or loaned out to a different team so they're able to gain that experience. So it's really important settings if you are going to be using a lot of your youth development. And I really highly recommend this, and I'll explain that in just a second. So when you go over to the Academy tab in your game, there's two things that are really important at the beginning. You need to look at your youth squad and decide what types of players and how you want to deal with the players you're dealing with. I.e., age, the younger they are, the lower the potential, the lower the overall would be, but the higher potential should be. So that's how you can differentiate between a very good player, i.e. someone who's 50 rated as 16, and is 74 to 94 is a really good player to keep in your youth academy. If someone's 14, 48 to 50, and 50 to 66, that potentially is someone you could probably look at moving on or moving out to the club. This centre-back here is 15, 49 rated, but 69 to 87 potential. It might be worth taking the risk until he develops maybe a season to see how he is getting on. This is why it's really important to have that 25% boost in these types of situations, because it really does help speed up the process of getting a decent player in the club very decently. If I'm looking at this now, this is just Man City in their first season, first time. I haven't done no games. This is how their standard squad looks like now. I would be looking at removing a lot of these players simply because I want longevity. So I'm looking for 13, 14, 15-year-olds with lower overalls, i.e. between 50 and 55, maybe a bit lower at a 49 to 55, but high potentials like 75 to 94. Gives them the longevity of staying in the youth academy and getting that potential to the max it could possibly be within this system. It totally depends on how you look at. My advice is always use the youngest players with the highest potential, i.e. so if I'm doing a five-a-side game, I'm using the top 5 from here. I always use a defender, a midfielder, and an attacking option with my keeper. I've got 4 options. I got 1 free spare space where I'm able to develop maybe a really young player, a 13-year-old, chuck him in the squad who's got a low overall, but it'll keep that that potential at the highest point it could possibly be. So that's really important to use. If you're using the Youth Cup, use the highest potential players you could possibly do, and that would normally be the youngest players, unless you have got a proper star where a 17-year-old has got a potential between 90 and 94, normally with an overall of potentially around about 70 already in your youth system. You should be looking to get them into your first team immediately and putting them out on loan so they can develop in a competitive environment. So that's just me explaining how you read the youth system and how you read your youth squad. Now I'm going to show you how to read your youth scout reports. So I have found a perfect example by here of what you should be looking for. A 16-year-old right or attacking midfielder with a really high potential. I'm not too bothered about the overall at the moment, it's a decent overall. Between 53 and 71, you're probably looking at around about 59 to 60 rated player. But the potential is really, really important. 77 to 94. If you've got a potential between 88 and 94 on the far right column, it's a really good player to bring in, because that is the max they could possibly go to. An average Premiership player is probably looking between an 80 and a 90 rated player. If you want to get really specific, it's probably 83 to 88. That is what a really good Premiership player is looking at. So he falls within that bracket of a high potential. For instance, a 13-year-old by here, I'm not looking at the overall. I'm really not. Especially for a big club, I am looking for more the young players with really high potentials. And as you can see, this is a really bad example, a bad player to bring in. He's only got a potential of 50 to 63, and his overall is between 42 and 48. That means they cross wires, and that means it's potential that they have already reached their peak, or they're not good enough to be at your club. Another good option, what you see a lot of, is 14-year-olds and 15-year-olds having high overalls at the moment of 61, a lot higher than their potential. That normally means that they could potentially be going, they could have peaked already. They could have peaked already, and this is where they're going to stay at. So for me, I am looking for players like this right winger. I'm looking for players like this, so I can discard them straight away, because I don't want them at the club. And that is just simply because their potential is not good enough for a high value club. I have got to stress, if for instance you are a lower club and this player, for instance, this is a perfect example, but here he's 47 to 65. If you're looking at a Wrexham, your average player base is probably around between 60 and 70 overall rating. So this player would fit into your squad quite nicely, and it's not something that I would turn down. At 17, he is able to go straight into that squad with a potential of a max potential of 65. It may be worth taking the risk to sign this player simply because he has got the ability to slot straight into your squad, and that's where it's really important, where I said to put fast or high, that extra 25% may be worth you taking it in a lower league, simply because these types of players will be able to go straight into your club and learn how to play and gain valuable experience and XP points to go towards the player. Another thing I do want to mention with these types of players is their height. Their height will fluctuate and will grow with the player. It's a thing called dynamic potential, which is already in the game at the moment, which can help or hinder the player depending on their first team. This doesn't really show as much inside of the youth development tab. Okay, so if they're in your youth squad, they will only potentially grow. They may have different rates of growing, but they will only grow further for you guys. So this player is 6'2". I can't see him growing anymore, but he is only 16, so he has got the potential of growing 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", depending on how well his development be. For instance, would I take a risk on this player? 16, between 75 and 94. Yes, I would. I would take him into the club, but I would also play him a lot more in the Youth Cup, simply because I want him to get that progression going as fast as we can. But also, I think he's got a better chance of developing over the long run inside the academy. A perfect example of these are 5'9" and 5'7". These left backs by here are very good players to sign. They still got a max 94 potential, and I cannot see a reason why we would not do it. They are 16 years old. There is a max overall of 71. It's probably not going to hit that. You're probably more looking at about a 62, 63 with this player. And this player, you're probably looking at about a 60 to 61 rating. For instance, if you're having a 14-year-old, I would say their overall would be around about 50. Okay, 13, 14-year-old, you're looking for an overall around about 50. And that gives you a good guideline of what you should be doing and what you should be looking for. If they are 16, you probably want them around about 60. You want them around about 60 overall, give or take, to have a good 16, 17-year-old A very good 16-year-old, you're probably looking 63, 64, 65. A 17-year-old that can get up to potentially around about a 65, 66, going on to 18 would be absolutely fantastic, but I doubt they would want to stay in your youth system for that long. Again, the better the scouts, the better quality you buy in, and the best way to do that is by looking at the overall star rating. 5-star will get you the best of the best and the most amount of the best. Okay, so that's a really important thing to remember. Their age will depend. So it entirely depends on what you want to do and what you want to do as a club. Do you want to build youngsters for the longer term, or do you want now? Young players that can go straight into you now. You're probably looking at overalls. If you're a lower club, you want overalls that can go into your team with high potential, i.e., if you're, again, I'm going to use Wrexham just for an example. If they have a player who's 16 who has an overall as 58, I would be happily taking him out with my youth system and putting him into my team because I genuinely feel he could have a place within that team. For instance, if I'm Man City, which I am now, I will be looking for more players with higher valuations of potential. So I want more 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds rather than 17, 18-year-olds. Okay, so that would be a really important thing to look out for in your career mode. I hope this has helped. Please use the dynamic potential in-game, loan players out. First team football will always progress players better than inside the youth academy. The youth academy will grow players from 13 to 16 very, very well. After that, it will slow up and you look to move them into the team either to play if they're a very good standard or to loan out if they're not quite at your standard of your club. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this has helped. Take care, much love, peace.